Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. Today we have 3 vehicles in the shop with rare or strange problems where when we found out what's wrong, it's absolutely not what you thought it would be. Let's get started. First one I'm going to talk about today is a 2007 Honda Accord that came in for valve adjustment check, and we actually found something else wrong that they were unaware of. That had nothing to do with valve adjustments. Let's head on over to the Honda Accord. Unfortunately, on any vehicle that has a valve adjustment, the procedure to check the valves and the procedure to actually adjust them is pretty much identical. So if you're going to have, say, just check the valves, see where they're at, it's the same amount of money as just going ahead and adjusting the valves. Because I have to go through and check all of them, it's the same procedure. I'll open the hood and I'll show you guys what I mean. Here is our K24 engine. One thing when you're looking at a car, you can tell it's been taken care of. You can see there's a new alternator. Over to the right is a new battery. And as I've checked this car over, I can see a lot of things that have been replaced or taken care of. Another one is the radiator. You can see it's been replaced at some point. If you're looking to buy a car and you see a lot of these parts replaced, you see some new tires, everything's working on the car, you can be assured they've been taking care of it. When something broke, they fixed it. They didn't just say, "Ah, screw it, I don't want to mess with that right now. I don't have the money for that. I'll just keep driving it until it stops." There's a lot of people doing that today, and it's really bad. It costs you more in the end to do that than just fix what broke right away. But what I want to show you with the valve adjustment is right here. The valves reside underneath this big valve cover. I have to take all these nuts off here. Also this plastic cover to get the valve cover off and actually get to the valves. You can see this is where the defining line is here. From here up comes off. Here's a picture with the valve cover off. It's kind of what it looks like. You have to go that far even if you just want to check them. I've actually ran into this with customers before. I just want you to check them. Don't worry about it. I just want to see where they're at. Say, well, you know it's going to cost the same as just going ahead and doing it. Why? How am I supposed to check the valves without taking the valve cover off? And then I'm not going to put the old valve cover gasket back on. It'll probably start leaking since I tampered with it. Just tell people, do a valve adjustment. Check it out. If it needs it, do it. It's going to be the same price either way.
So Wizard, why do they think they need a valve adjustment?
Hondas are supposed to have periodic valve adjustments. This one has 250,000 miles on it. How many valve adjustments it's had in the past, I don't know. I'd have to get with the customer and check out the history, but if it hasn't been done, it's probably definitely time to do it. We're actually waiting on the customer to get a hold of them and see if they want to proceed or not. But the rest of the car looks fine, but I did find some other work that's been done, and there's some issues with it. Let's get it up in the air. Don't always freak out when you see a puddle on the ground with your car. We're in that time of year, it's very hot out and your air conditioning's running, and the condensation that builds up inside of the HVAC box has to go somewhere. There's actually a drain that drains it to the ground. Right there. That's just water. It's like condensation water, condensate is what it's called. So let's go ahead and move forward with some of the leak I found. I checked out the radiator and everything else, and let's show you what we found. So I checked the brakes and CV shafts, and everything looks good over on both sides. There's nothing leaking on the radiator core support. The oil pan's dry, but I did see it's really, like it's dirty here and then it gets really clean. You see this nice shiny metal. So I said, okay, something's leaking there. You can see a little red drip there. It's way up top. There's a little bit of fluid right here. It's red. And it's all over the place and blowing back here as well. So red tells us it's transmission fluid, and I thought, okay, so there's a seal there. It may have gone bad. And I actually took a peek up in there, and let me show you what I found. You can see the CV shaft has been out. It's a new one. It's been replaced. But you can see somebody put a new seal. It's orange colored. You can see it right behind the CV shaft there. And when they put it in, it's still leaking. So it's possible that that seal was damaged upon installation. The little lip got torn that seals around that output shaft, or it got dented, or who knows what happened. But it's definitely still leaking. Everything else on the car looks really good. The catalytic converter has not been cut off and traded for meth. And the rear brakes and everything looks good. So let's go ahead and get this thing back on the ground. So this can happen to anyone. You go to put that seal in, it doesn't go in just right, it gets torn. It's not a scam, I mean, it happens. But this is one of those situations where I don't go any further as far as the leak is concerned. I got a quote for the valve adjustment. If they want to do it or not, I don't know yet. But this is where you say, hey, whoever did that job, you need to take it back to them and see if they'll honor a warranty. Most of the time, people should honor a warranty. They'll get in there and replace it and redo it or whatnot. But you'd be surprised how many people I say, hey, you know, we're not going to charge you for that. I found it. Take it back to where you got that fixed. Maybe they'll make it right with you. And I've actually had most people say, hell no, if they messed it up this time, I don't want them to touch it. I will willingly void my own warranty. I don't even want the warranty anymore, Car Wizard. I want you to fix it. But I'm not going to do it for free because I'm not the shop that put it on. It's going to cost a few $100. I got to pull the CV shaft off, get the seal out, and then I got to check the transmission fluid level and do all those things. A couple hours in and out job. It's not a big job. But I'm not doing it for free. I didn't even put that on. So, and usually that's not a problem. The customers are totally happy with that because they don't want to go back a second and a third and a fourth time to try to make something right. It's sad. It's kind of sad that it's that way. But anyways, that's where we're at with this Honda. That's the only few things that needs taken care of, and this thing will be back on the road. Get a Honda, not a Hyundai. You guys have seen a video on this one. It's actually a Lexus version of a Prius. It's a 2012 Lexus CT200H. Underneath is basically a Prius. If you didn't watch that video yet, there's a link in the description to go check it out and what we found out what was wrong with it. If you've watched that video, you know that we found that it has a blown head gasket, and now we have it all apart. We can show you what does that mean, a blown head gasket, and how a rough running engine or it misfires on startup, you could run down 5 different rabbit holes and not arrive to the real problem. A blown head gasket has nothing to do with your spark plugs or vacuum leak or cam timing, or it has only to do with the head gasket. Let's take a look at it. So just as you guys heard, Grimes is no longer here, and Junior Mint has been kicking butt. He's been doing excellent work. We're doing the head gasket on this one. He already has the cylinder head off. And now we can actually see what was exactly going on. Let's take a look at the engine block. You can start to see why a head gasket job is so expensive. So many parts have to come apart. We're basically torn down to the core engine, the short block, just to do the head gasket. All the timing chains are off, intake, exhaust, everything is ripped off of this thing. And we definitely know it was a blown head gasket because cylinder 4, 3, and 2 have a rusty appearance. But number 1 is steam cleaned. It is shiny and new because it's literally been steam cleaned by coolant getting past the head gasket. This is actually a common problem on these 2012 Priuses and also the Lexus that has the same engine and setup and everything. Here's our actual head gasket, and you can see the other cylinders have a nice black concentric sealing ring around them all the way around, but not cylinder number 1. It's completely blown through. You can see the silver shiny metal underneath the sealing compound. Let's flip this gasket over. There it is, guys. There's a coolant hole right there, port, and it was going right through into the cylinder. You can see it there. So inside your engine you have cooling jackets that go from the cylinder head all the way down to the block. Let me show you again. Here's your little piston running, doing its job, but in this channel, this huge opening here, there's coolant in this all the time. It's not supposed to get inside of here. It's supposed to be sealed right here. But it was blown and getting coolant in there. Let's go take a look at the parts table. So here's the large table. Junior Mint has some parts on. You can actually see the camshaft. I kind of call it a cassette. It's like the entire girdle or whatever you want to call it. All comes off as one unit. Here's all of our rocker arms. He has them stuffed into some styrofoam so that they go back in the same place they came out. There's our valve cover. There's an EGR cooler. And the exhaust is out of the car. Just wait, there's more. Here's our timing cover. It's been removed. Junior Mint's working on cleaning up the mating surfaces. There's the tensioner. Here's our timing chain. We'll be putting a new one, guides, chain, everything back in. We're not putting this old stuff back in. And then here's the cylinder head. One way I can tell that this just started happening is that when they've been going for a while with the blown head gasket, The entire cylinder walls, the actual cylinder head will be, shiny, brand new, clean, like a brand new cylinder head. It was just starting to do it. You can see here that these ridges here, 4, 3, 2, and look at this one, starting to get steam cleaned. It's shiny and clean. Luckily, we caught this in time, and no damage to the engine has occurred. We were worried this could be $5,000 once we get this apart. We could find damage, there was coolant in the oil, or we didn't know what we were going to find. That's why we quoted it so high. But now that we've got it apart, we can kind of breathe easy. It's no major damage. We just need to make sure the cylinder head surface is flat. Also the block is flat. If there's no warpage, we can just put a new head gasket on. If there is warpage here, you'll have to get resurfaced at Martin Machine in Wichita, which is who we use. So definitely want to show you what's going on with the Lexus version of a Prius. Now that we've got everything apart, we'll do some checking here, and then it's time to go back together. Let's head over to a Mini Cooper. So here we have a 2010 Mini Cooper that was worked on by a local body shop. They specialize in body work. For whatever reason, they decided to put a good used engine in this for their customer. And they're having some issues. They're scratching their head. They're like, I don't know what's wrong with this thing. But first, let's take a look around it. So we see the front of this, it's missing the little chrome trim piece. It's above the grill there. It's actually in the back seat. It arrived that way. And it's a little dirty. It's not too bad. But I wouldn't expect it to, because it's coming from a body shop. And if there was any issues, I'm sure they could solve them. You see it's a Cooper S with the twin exhaust tips. And I don't see any serious damage or anything, which is not why it's here anyways. Let's go ahead and jump under the bonnet since it's English. Here we have the little turbocharged twin cam engine. And it came in with a code P1497, which is unmetered air. You can see here at my feet I have a few tools that I've been using to do some testing. The first thing I did is I suspected the crankcase vent could be bad, which is common on these. Let me show you where that's at. Underneath this cover that has some writing on it, there's actually a disc shape right about right here. You can see a PCV hose is going into it. There's a diaphragm. Those can tear, and it allows a ton of unchecked air into the intake. The way I check it is I start the engine, I pull the dipstick out, I get a vacuum gauge with a little special tip that I have on it. It fits right onto the dipstick tube. It just fits in there. It's pretty tight, but once it's in, it's sealed. And you should get a reading here. So you should not see anything over 1 inch mercury of vacuum. If you see 5, 8, 10, this thing's definitely bad. But when I connected this to the dipstick tube, it barely had even, it did move over to about 1, 1.5. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with the valve cover PCV valve, so that ruled that out. The next thing I did, I suspected a vacuum leak, which on today's cars are very sensitive to vacuum leak because we have a mass airflow sensor is metering air, and it doesn't like it when air is getting behind it that's not being metered through the airflow sensor. So I connected my handy dandy smoke machine into the intake manifold, and I found nothing. Now keep in mind, the shop has put in a used engine into this car. What have I told you guys about used engines? Don't do it. What I ended up finding, did some research on Identifix, and then I looked at the data on the scan tool at the camshafts. It's off. The timing is off. I suspected, well, you know, it's probably old. This engine came out of a vehicle that's got some high miles. The timing chain is stretched. It may just need a timing chain. Crazy D in the office called the shop and said, you know, did you guys do anything with any updates while the engine was out? Oh yeah, we put timing chains on it. And a light went off in my head. Bing, bing. There's our problem. You must have gotten the timing off. So it could be off just one tooth. That's all it takes. And it's just enough that it can't correct for it, and the air coming into the engine is not what it expects. And actually on Identifix, if you type in the P1497 code on a 2010 Mini Cooper S, it has a whole list. Timing chain, timing chain, timing chain, timing chain. Being that this is a used engine, and I don't know where it came from, and I don't know the quality of work that was done, we are not going to touch it. As soon as I take this apart, I just sign my life away to every nut and bolt on this entire car. I know better than that. So we'll give the list to the customer. This is what it is. You need to go through and recheck this or redo this. Definitely look into the timing chains. That's what we found. We're not going any further. So that's what's going on with this issue. That's probably why they couldn't find it, because it doesn't really show up unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So it's kind of a bummer situation on the Mini Cooper. Hopefully they can check the timing on the timing chain. I think they should be able to take care of it and get this back on the road for the customer. That's all it needs, is that corrected. It had no other codes, no other issues. So I think that will very likely take care of their problem. And we'll get Junior Mint over on the Lexus to get that back together, and that will be done soon as well. And we're still waiting on the Honda Accord for the customer to get back with us and see what they want to do. If you're curious what kind of tools we use in the shop to work on any car in here, or to figure out what's wrong with the car, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. If you purchase anything, we get a small cut and we really appreciate it. Check out Mrs. Wizard's Ways as well. She's got great content on her channel. The link is in the description below for that as well. And make sure to hit the subscribe button here, because we have many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.